Let's talk about a very common reaction practitioners and health coaches have once they start that process of narrowing down their niche. Often you'll hear, oh, this feels too small. What if there's not enough people? What if I run out of clients? And worse yet, what if I get bored? So instead of leaning into that niche, you end up softening it. You add more language, maybe you widen the scope, and you end up making it feel safer. And unintentionally, you end up making it harder for the right people to actually find you. So, in today's video, I want to walk you through why a niche that feels narrow is often exactly what creates momentum, trust, and long term growth in your practice, even when it feels a little uncomfortable at first. Hey there and welcome. I'm Leslie Bytel, and I am a business strategist and mentor for integrative and functional medicine practitioners, as well as for coaches. And in my work, I help practitioners to clarify their positioning, create aligned offers, and build practices that grow without the constant hustle, burnout, or second guessing. Also, if you are getting value from my videos, I invite you to hype, like, and subscribe. It really supports my work and it's free. All right. So, one of the biggest mindset shifts that I support clients through is this: a niche feeling too narrow does not mean it's wrong or misaligned. More often than not, it means it's finally clear. So let's start with why too narrow is usually a perception problem, not a marketing problem. When you choose a niche, you are seeing it from the inside. You know how much depth exists, you know how complex these cases can be, and you also know how many variations show up under that same umbrella. Now, your audience does not have that same vantage point, right? They are not evaluating your niche the way you are, of course. They're not asking, is this nuanced enough? They're not asking, is this too limiting for her long term growth? Definitely not. They are asking a much simpler question. And this probably will not be any big surprise. They're asking, is this for me? More specificity helps them to answer that question faster because when your message is broad, people tend to hesitate. They think, maybe, I'm just not sure. But when your message is clear, they don't have to work so hard to translate it. They don't have to sit there and wonder if they qualify, and they don't have to guess if you are the right fit. Instead, they recognize themselves in your messaging. And it's that sense of recognition that creates a sense of trust for them. And this is really one of the biggest misunderstandings that I see around niche work and just brand messaging overall. Practitioners often assume narrowing their niche limits their audience, even though I will admit it is often counterintuitive for us practitioners. The reality is that it reduces confusion for your target market. And confusion is what stops people in their tracks from taking action. It literally stops them. I always like to say a confused mind does not take action. Now, let's talk about what actually happens when you get more specific about your area of specialization in relation to powerful messaging. When your message is specific, something really, really powerful happens almost immediately in that people feel relief in sight. They see it because they don't have to decode your content. They don't have to read between the lines, and they don't have to sit there and wonder if you really understand their situation. They feel seen and they feel heard. And when someone feels seen and heard, they do tend to lean in. And honestly, it's really a gift that validates their concerns. And that leaning in process and that subsequent validation is what's going to drive your inquiries. It drives referrals. It's also what drives conversions. And this is not hype. It's not urgency. It's certainly not pressure. It's simply providing a sense of clarity. Now, I want you to really hear this. All right. So, people are generally speaking not overwhelmed because there's just too many options out there. Instead, they become overwhelmed because they don't know which option is best for them. They end up getting confused as to whether or not they're in the right place. Easy to understand, right? So, your niche and your strong messaging really helps to solve that problem. Now, let's address the fear that usually sits underneath all of this, shall we? What if there aren't enough people? And this fear almost always comes from what we call scarcity thinking. And it's understandable, honestly. Many practitioners are coming from environments where, I don't know, referrals just felt inconsistent, where marketing felt hard and unpredictable, where income felt tied to consistent effort, kind of like being on a hamster wheel. So when you hear the word niche, your brain jumps to math. How many people fit this? Is that enough? What if I run out? But here's the truth: most niches really are not too small. It's a rare occasion when that happens. So here's a mindset shift. Most niches are actually underserved, and even a niche that appears small on the surface can support a thriving, sustainable practice when your positioning is clear and your offers are aligned. So remember, you do not need everyone. You just need enough of the right people. So let's put this into perspective, shall we? If you need, I don't know, let's say 10 to 15 new clients or patients a month, just hypothetically, to meet your goals, that's a very small fraction of any well defined audience. You're not trying to capture an entire market. You are trying to connect with a slice of the market comprised of humans with real challenges. And these human beings are looking for practitioners who understand them. And another really important distinction here is this: narrow messaging does not equal narrow impact. In fact, I would say the opposite is true, in that your messaging can be very specific while your impact is broad. For example, you might specialize in a particular condition, population, life stage, but the ripple effect of your work reaches far beyond that. Clear niches create strong reputations because you become known for helping a certain patient or client type. And remember, most of us as patients ourselves want to have practitioners who have a specialization. Strong reputations create momentum in your business. And it's that momentum that really contributes to your business growth without that feeling of grind, constant grind. And this is how practices expand without always feeling chaotic. And here's something that often surprises practitioners. When your niche is working, it might actually feel a little quieter at first. Now, it's super important to note that this does not mean it's failing. It means the signal is getting clearer. So at first, you might notice fewer but more thoughtful inquiries. You may also notice that conversations just end up feeling easier and more aligned. You might notice the referrals start to come from unexpected places. And you might notice you feel more confident speaking about your work because you're no longer trying to cover everything. You're no longer attempting to be an expert on everything, which is so challenging. So please remember, these are signs of momentum, even if the volume is still building. And I would say this is especially important to understand if you're transitioning from very broad messaging to more specific positioning. There is often a recalibration period because the old audience is adjusting and the right audience is finding you. And during that window, it can feel a little bit uncomfortable. And this is where many practitioners and coaches panic and they widen their niche again. But I do want to say staying the course is what allows clarity to compound over time. Now, let's talk about why narrowing your niche feels emotionally hard, even when it makes sense from a logical perspective. Choosing a niche can feel like you're saying no. It can feel like you're going to turn people away, and it can feel like you're, closing your doors, so to speak, before you feel ready. So, for heart led practitioners, this can actually bring up guilt. What if someone needs help and I'm not the right fit? What if I could help them, but my messaging doesn't reflect that? So, here's another reframe that I want to propose to you. Your niche is a marketing decision. It's really not a moral decision. And I like to say that niching down is a marketing strategy. It's not a marriage. So you're not refusing care. You're not abandoning people. You're simply clarifying where you do your best work. And clarity is a form of service. And that is because when people can quickly tell if you're the right fit, they can make more empowered decisions for themselves. They can find the right support faster. And just remember, that's not exclusion. It's really respect. And another fear that comes up is the fear of being boxed in, right? What if I outgrow this? What if I get bored? What if my interests change over time? What if I want to evolve in my work? And I do want to emphasize that you're definitely allowed to evolve. Your niche, it's not a lifetime sentence. It is just a current point of focus in your marketing. In fact, many successful practitioners refine their niche multiple times over the course of their career. And each iteration really ends up bringing more clarity, not less. So the goal is not to choose the perfect niche forever. The goal is to choose a clear niche for right now. Clarity creates opportunity for tomorrow. So let's talk about what happens internally when your niche clicks. You stop trying to sound like you have to be an expert on everything, and you stop watering down your language in order to appeal to everyone. So, what happens is your message sharpens, your confidence increases because you're no longer trying to be everything to everyone, which is huge. You're communicating more clearly. And your content, oh my gosh, this one's huge. It becomes so much easier to create because you know exactly who you are speaking to. You're not guessing anymore. You're responding to the needs of your target audience. And I think clients can really feel that. They feel your certainty, they feel your groundedness, and they definitely feel that sense of clarity. And that's what makes them feel safe in saying yes. And this is one of the most overlooked benefits of niche clarity. It doesn't just change how people see you, it changes how you even see yourself. So, now let's talk about visibility. When your niche is clear, marketing stops feeling so hard. It stops feeling like you have to show up as an expert on everything, which is so hard to do. So instead of asking, what should I post today? You may ask, gosh, what does my person need to hear right now? And that shift really helps reduce burnout quite dramatically because you're no longer creating content for the algorithm. You are creating content for your target audience, for other human beings that need your support. And this is also why clear niches tend to outperform broad ones over time. And this is because a clear niche, of course, you have to have solid messaging. It creates that sense of consistency, and consistency really helps your audience build that sense of familiarity. And it ultimately helps build growth. So, I want to address one more misconception, and this one is really important. Choosing a niche does not mean you stop helping people outside of it. Your niche is your focus. Do not look at it like a fence. You are still allowed to support people that fall outside your core message. That is so important. You're still allowed to say yes to other opportunities that come up for you. You're still allowed to explore new interests and directions as they arise. And you are simply choosing where to place your visibility, your energy, and your growth right now. So Think of your niche as a front door. It tells people who you serve best. Once they're inside, your full skill set can come forward. But without that front door, people don't know how to enter, or they wonder if they're even in the right place. They just are confused and they don't know. So, helping people, helping everyone sometimes does sound generous, but helping a more specific client type is what helps build sustainable, confident practices. And remember, a niche that feels narrow is often a sign that your message is finally landing. Specificity really creates that recognition. Recognition leads to more trust, and we know that trust leads to growth. If this video helped you to feel more confident about leaning into your niche, go ahead and like the video and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes in this marketing and visibility series. And if you would like personalized support in refining your niche and positioning with clarity and confidence, and also a solid strategy to help you to grow, I invite you to look at my website and explore ways we might work together at lesliebytel.com. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.